Tēnā tātou katoa, good evening. The government's delivered a KO blow to the board of Kāinga Ora. It's just announced a new chair, former Spark boss Simon Muta, and accepted a recommendation to refresh the board of the State Housing Agency. Why? Because former Prime Minister Bill English has just completed a government-commissioned review, revealing it was not financially viable and in need of more than $21 billion of government cash over the next 4 years. But Housing Minister Chris Bishop has ruled out a mass State House sell-off to get them out of trouble. Here's political editor Jenna Lynch.
These are some of New Zealand's newest state houses. 80 homes opened just last month in Wellington. Kāinga Ora built them, but its own foundations are crumbling.
Kāinga Ora is underperforming and not financially viable without significant savings.
A review into the state housing provider is damning. It found the agency's debt ballooned fourfold over the past 6 years to $12 billion, and business as usual without savings or significant investment meant it was financially unsustainable. If it were to continue the way it was, Kāinga Ora needed $21 billion of government money over the next 4 years.
This is equivalent to every New Zealander paying about $4,000 each to keep Kāinga Ora going.
It's like they've only just realised it costs money to build houses. They talked about the increase in debt. They didn't once talk about the increase in assets.
Kāinga Ora manages more than 72,000 properties and houses about 185,000 people. But in a deep housing crisis, there are many more waiting. More than 25,000 are on the State House waitlist. The average time taken to house someone on the register is 206 days, more than 6 months.
For every dollar Kāinga Ora doesn't manage properly, that's a dollar that isn't going towards providing a good housing outcome for a person or a family in need, and that's what we need them to be focused on.
The review, led by Sir Bill English, found the board had insufficient focus on fiscal discipline. It signed off on budgets that were not realistic, assuming that new lending of several $1 billion from the government would be approved. So a major renovation job at the agency is needed, beginning with a refresh of the board. Is it sacking the board?
We're appointing a refreshed board.
And the new board's first job, deliver a total turnaround plan by November.
That turnaround plan, do you expect that to include a mass sell-off of state houses?
I can rule out a mass sell-off of state houses.
Treasury advice showed Kāinga Ora planned to sell off 10,000 state houses. That's more than Labor built over the last 6 years to raise $6 billion for the public agency. Chris Bishop put the kibosh on that too.
That's not about transfers. That was literally they had to sell them in order to keep the ship afloat, keep the lights on, so to speak. So we are ruling that out.
But he's not ruling out a mass transfer of state houses to community housing providers, or the idea of setting up community housing associations as recommended by the report.
And we will be considering that. We are not committing to that today. Today is about fixing the finances of Kāinga Ora.
Oh, he's being very clever with his answers. He didn't explicitly rule out a transfer from government books to community housing providers. That's what happened last time.
Labor thinks that's a sell-off in disguise.
Well, Jenna's with us now. Kia ora, Jenna. The Minister indicated there are further decisions to be made at Kāinga Ora. What are they looking at?
Yes, the Minister seems quite interested in this idea of community housing associations, not to be confused with the community housing providers. That's places like the Salvation Army. The associations would mean sort of a decentralisation of Kāinga Ora, setting them up in regionalised areas to manage the state houses with input from community housing providers, and depending on how they are set up, potentially the option for non-government actors to invest in them and become shareholders. He said he is looking at that idea but was not committed to it. He is seeking further advice on it. The other thing he is seeking advice on is the entire housing program. Kāinga Ora has a lot on its plate. It's not just the state house, it also runs the Progressive Home Ownership Scheme, the Affordable Housing Fund, the Housing Acceleration Fund and Kiwi Build. Now the Minister's confirmed today that Kiwi Build will be scrapped, but he couldn't give a timeline on that. When I asked about some of the other home buyer initiatives, first home buyer initiatives, like the First Home Buyers Grant or the First Home Loan, he didn't commit to those either, saying everything was under consideration. So it seems nothing is safe, nothing is guaranteed in the housing space while the government undertakes this massive review.
Political editor Jenna Lynch, tēnā koe.